Please, Antonia Axelsson Johnson.
I'm reflecting as a business person. I think that today many of our businesses that we all meet as consumers every day are quite large or very large or extremely large. And if you imagine just our companies, we meet 1.5 million customers every day. And the system is actually a real barrier to change, because the system of getting a product to a customer, end customer, and then if you start going backwards in the value chain, through, for instance, a department store, you have to go through the department store, the logistics, the warehouses,
not on the internet.
The purchasing system, the production in China or India, wherever it is. And when you start thinking about the difficulty of making a change in the packaging, it becomes just a huge problem. So management says, we can't do it. We can't afford it. It'll take too long time. And how can we convince our suppliers? So there's this tremendous, very slow, it's like slowly moving giants to make a real change. I think that is a real problem for many of us.
Thank you.
Yeah, especially when it comes to packaging, I suppose. Thank you very much. What is the most important challenge now? We've heard so much interesting today.
I'll say something.
Please, Michael.
I think talking about I think in a way what we're seeing is this transition from concepts and development and materials and all that kind of thing into the business community and vice versa. And I'll tell you a little story. Back in the kind of late 90s, when the aircraft industry was really, really low and building industry was not doing very well and all that sort of stuff, I put SCIARC, the school, as a member of SAMPE, which is the engineering society in America. We were the only architecture school, including Harvard and MIT. They weren't in it. We were in it. And I then went to all the aircraft companies, Boeing and all of them, they're all in LA, and I said, should we build buildings the way you build airplanes? And they said, our entire industry is at your disposal. We'll build prototypes for you, we'll help you design. We were both using CAD systems and that sort of thing. I went back to SCIARC and I proposed it, and nobody was interested. Zero. So I went to UCLA, I went to Caltech. I went to all the schools, and nobody was interested in the aircraft industry helping them produce housing, right? We're there again. We're in exactly the same situation, and nobody has approached them. And all of these new buildings and everything like that are using that, all the blob architecture and everything like that. None of them have gone to the aircraft industry, who have autoclaves as big as this room that can generate anything you want. So I think one of the big problems that the scientific and the design industry have is to see that innovation can come from industry itself, that it's not just us knowing all this stuff and not being able to write the right business plan. It's about going to all these different areas where there's potential and they're looking for new markets and new projects, and let them show us some guidance. I think it can't be too much focused on how good we are. There's got to be a learning aspect to it and an exploratory aspect, so we respect the fact that there are a lot of industries out there that could really collaborate directly in this early period of finding projects and using what's already there to improve something else that's already there.
Thank you. Anybody else? What about you, Chris Allen? Would you like to say something to us in Sweden now? You were the one, and Denise, who started this afternoon. Yeah? Would you like to just give us a word or two so that we can do another year here? And then we can invite you back in a year's time, and you can say, oh, you've done so well. So, please.
One of the things that we're exploring at the Biomimicry Institute and the Biomimicry Guild is this idea of open innovation, which I think I mentioned last night at dinner. What we've seen with a lot of the solutions that have come out of industry in the past is what we call stranded intellectual capital, where you have solutions that are formed in typical type R&D situations. But what we're seeing now that's very exciting is the open innovation model, which is a distributed way for partners to come together and collaborate on these solutions. and so that you have big companies, little companies, academic institutions all coming together to create intellectual property and sharing in the benefits of those. I think it's a real stimulating line of research and development and a new approach to developing some of these solutions and opportunities. So I encourage you to look at Henry Cheeseborough's book on open innovation, and based on the conversation that we had last night, I think that might be a way to stimulate some new thinking here in Sweden.
Thank you.
Yep.
And maybe a thought on this idea of push versus pull. I think we've been talking a lot about that. How do we get this technology out there? How do we get it accepted? And one thing that we've been trying to do at the Biomimicry Institute is apply the concepts of biomimicry to ourselves. And how do we grow in a biomimetic way? And what the heck does that mean? And so we look to nature. We say, well, how does nature accomplish something radically different? And it's not a push and it's not a pull. It's more an emergent property. So Mother Nature doesn't say, you know what, I want a redwood forest right here. I'm going to make it happen. I'm going to push to get there. I'm going to, see who wants a redwood forest. Instead, you have all these.
So we will mimic evolution here.
Exactly. So you mimic. It's more about understanding the properties, the characteristics that you want to aim for.
The function.
And then let it emerge. And the other thing we found is instead of going for really big things, which require big investments and big risk. And by the time you get them going, the world has changed. And so that's no longer...
But how do we then emerge a new packaging? I was thinking about Antonia's question. How do that emerge, evolve?
Well, there's different models in nature for that. How do you have something very different? So you can look at the different models out there, and one of them will be more appropriate. For example, if you want to change an entire ecosystem, one way nature does it is, let's say lightning hits a single tree in a forest, and so there's a gap. And then different organisms take advantage of that gap, and not necessarily the same tree will grow there. Something else will grow there. Another is called naturalization. So the species trickles in and just kind of fits in. It doesn't try and take over. But if it's more successful, or if the climate changes, it could take over and transforms it in kind of a subtle way. Sometimes we reach a crisis mode, and there's like a forest fire, and then it's a chance for a whole new system. So I would suggest there's not like one approach, but we need to look at these different approaches, and for each of our products and systems, what is the model?
See what will survive. Survival of the fittest when it comes to packaging. Okay. Thank you very much. Mats Brodén, you are the sort of inventor and organizer and evolver and I don't know, everything here. So what is the next step for you and for us?
First I was thinking about, I think it's not only about the industry, the academia and the state. I think we have to support the consumer because they have a creativity as well. So I think we tend to forget that in Sweden, that they also can be a sport is development. That's one thing that I'm thinking about. The other thing I'm thinking about is, should we do this one more time? So we come back next year. What do you think? Is it worthwhile to continue this?
Would you come back? Great. That was one thing, one tick in the box. What more would you like to do?
What I would like to do?
Yes.
Well, personally, I'm interested. I'm more like an idea person than organizing. That's why I'm so tired right now, because it's.
We try to help you a little.
but one thing that I find extremely interesting is plants and animals senses, and how they can help us perceive the world, extend our perception. And I see it as a kind of a Disney World 2.0. That's something I would like to work with. So, but in general, I would like to work with more hands-on projects, because I don't think it's enough to just talk about these things. We have to show things, because that's what's triggering. If it's prototypes or sharp products or whatever, I think that's what we need to do. So that's what I want to do next time. So set up teams working on actual.
Yeah, we were discussing perhaps we can invite to workshops a little bit smaller groups than this and see what happens.
Yeah, I think that's the better one.
Great. I think it's time to close this afternoon and thank all of the wonderful speakers today. Thank you, every one of you. We've come a long way. And thank you, the fantastic audience. Now it's time for a little glass of something and something to eat. So please stay a while and take the opportunity to make new friends. Thank you for coming.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.